Hi guys, how are you all doing? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Here we are, finally the transfer window is getting up and running now. Firstly, apologies, I have been away the last few days over on a stag do over in the Algarve in Portugal. Hello to Craig. Craig, I saw your message this morning saying that you were staying at the same hotel and you didn't want to come and say hi to me, but you're a Newcastle fan. You should have come and said hi. Not sure you'd have got much sense out of me right enough, but here we are, we're back, and things are happening. So look, I largely missed a lot of the Basu Toure arrival over the weekend. Of course, reported on the news on Wednesday night before I left early Thursday morning that a fee had been agreed for the Ivory Coast International. And then, of course, things moved very quickly from Newcastle after that, and he was over here within, 24, 48 hours. And the deal was complete and was ratified and all done very, very quickly by Newcastle United. And I think, look, that is the theme of this video here, because it's strange. There's been a couple of weeks, there's been a lot of negativity, a lot of abuse, a lot of name calling, a lot of aggro on social media over the last couple of weeks. A lot of it towards myself, towards other journalists, towards people just trying to do their job and report the transfer news. But because, look, I get it. People are getting frustrated that there weren't any signings through the door. But with the news today, that hopefully most of you have seen already, that Newcastle have agreed a deal for another player. That is Sean Stour. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it, whether it's Stour or Stour. We'll find out soon enough. But Newcastle have agreed a deal with Ajax for his signing. That shows that deals are being done quickly, are being done swiftly, are being done quietly in the background, and things can happen without them being spoken about extensively on social media. And look, I think that will please you guys. So for those of you that haven't seen the news this morning, it's all across Sky Sports News, other outlets as well. But Sean Stour, the 18-year-old Dutch under-21 international, just 18 years old, and Newcastle have agreed a fee with Ajax for his signature, £20 million up front with a potential £3 million in add-ons, taking the deal up to £23 million. Ross Wilson clinched that deal earlier on this morning. We're now, early afternoon on Tuesday, and I have just put a story out in the last 5-10 minutes or so that he is set to fly to the northeast later on today to finalise that transfer. So he will, as I understand it, fly in by private jet round about tea time, should arrive early evening, and his medical will take place tomorrow. So again, just shows how quickly things can get done. And to all those who are really questioning in it, there is your answer. And I've been saying for a few weeks now, plates are spinning, things are happening. There's a lot of multiple deals being juggled at the one time. And it just shows you that Toure in over the weekend for, I think it was £42 million, Stour now for 20 plus 3, and others that the club are working on. This is going to be a busy summer for Newcastle. I said minimum 6, maximum 9. That was the sort of ballpark figure I was looking at in terms of new arrivals. Of course, that's taken into account that players are going to leave, and we've seen that already with Anthony Gordon and Sandro Tonali. This is going to be a transformative summer for Newcastle. I'm not saying that they're going to come out of it stronger than they were at the end of last season. I'm not saying they're going to be better. I'm not saying they're going to be more experienced. But it's going to be different. It's going to be a completely different team. You're going to have multiple players to choose from on the back of your shirt for the start of the new season. And it's just a complete rebuild. You're going to see a completely different Newcastle United. A younger, probably more vibrant, but different team. And I think it's just an understanding within the club now that perhaps they need to try and target younger players, unearth younger players at slightly lesser value. I think in the short-term future, the days of £69 million for Nick Voltemad, £55 million for Elanga, £55 million for Wissa, those are going to be gone. And I've been saying this for a while now, that Newcastle are looking to bring players in between 18 and 24 and between 20 and £40 million. Now, if they go over it by a couple of million, like we saw with Toure, or under that by a couple of million, like we saw with the goalkeeper, Ewan Zhaoen, then so be it. But that's the ballpark that they're working towards, and that's the model moving forward. And I think, look, we all pretty much agree that is probably the right thing to do. It's a sustainable way to go forward. We've seen it work well with Brighton, and I think the hope is that moving forward in the long term, that can work well here. But I don't see the club breaking the transfer record this window. So that Sean Stewart came out of the blue. Only really first reported over in Holland this morning, 7 o'clock this morning, that Newcastle were close to an agreement. Even at 9 this morning, I was told that it was pretty much there, but not 100% there. But just in the last couple of hours, they have clinched that deal with Ajax. They've agreed personal terms, and the young midfielder will be on his way here to the northeast later on today to finalise that deal and undergo his medical tomorrow. So that's the first one that I want to talk about. The second one after this quick ad break. So guys, today's video is brought to you by Oxford Natural, optimum day and night. Look, I'm not going to stand here and lie to you and say I've been on this for months. I haven't. I'm not going to pretend it's a quick fix. It's not, but I'm noticing differences already. Optimum day is all about energy levels, cutting out cravings and keeping yourself on track. But optimum night, this is where I'm noticing the difference already. It helps with sleep, and it helps your body reset. And when you cover a juggernaut of a football club like this, I'll take any help I can get. It's pretty simple, it's nothing crazy, but clearly people are getting results. Take Michael Owen, for example, the former Newcastle and England striker. He's £35 down. Then there's Robbie from Arsenal Fans TV. He's shed more than £80. If you're sat there and thinking, I need to sort this out, then click on the link below in the description or scan that QR code and use the code KD70 for up to 70% off your first order. No promises from me though, I'm just putting it out there. Okay, so hopefully I'll be able to provide a bit more of an update, maybe some pictures of Stewart arriving, as I tried to do over at Sky Sports News and on the channel here later on today. Sorry, I know someone pointed this out to me in my video I did recently where I had the hat on back to front. That's the dog that's chewed that there. That's Reggie. I'll turn it round. So anyway, the second one I want to talk about is Johan Manzambe. Now, 10 days ago, I put out a story. It was the very first time his name had been mentioned. The Newcastle were interested in Manzambe. The information I was given back then was Newcastle were hoping to close a deal on that player. But I played it. I tried to play it safe. I didn't want to make it sound as though it was closer or anything like that, which of course it wasn't anyway. But I put out there that Newcastle were interested. But look, it was probably a bit more than that. Like they were. I think there was already some sort of talks taking place behind the scenes, and Newcastle had made it clear that they wanted to sign him. My information today is that interest remains, but the player himself does have a few options. And I know, look, we've been there before. You've heard this before this summer with Victor Munoz. You've heard it last summer with a number of players, and it's not what we want to hear. I'm not hearing that Newcastle are in the driving seat. Now, maybe I don't know some information that others do. I'm not hearing they're in the driving seat. What I'm hearing is that the player has options, and he knows he's got options, and he's going to sit and take stock once he's finished participating at the World Cup. Now, of course, he's playing for Switzerland there. As we know, he's been involved, 5 goal involvements. He scored 3, set up 2. Which makes him the youngest ever to have 5 goal involvements in the history of the World Cup. So he's a breakout star. His stock is high. He's coveted by multiple clubs. He's going to have options. I was told 10 days ago his value was €50 million, which equates to about £42 million. I'm now seeing bits and pieces on other reports that his club Freiburg are now looking for 60 million. So perhaps just what he's done at the World Cup is maybe allowing them to ask for a little bit more. So it feels like he's top end as to what, you know, if you go by the parameters that I mentioned earlier, even at 42 million, he's top end. if there was to be another 10 million euros on top of that, taking it up to what that'd be £50 million really. That might be a bit higher than what Newcastle are looking at, so that's something that they're going to have to consider. But he's going to wait until he's finished at the World Cup. Now look, Switzerland are playing Colombia later tonight. They could be eliminated in the round of 16, and then that he'll of course be sent home and given a chance to sit down and think about what he wants to do. So it doesn't sound from what I'm hearing like it's close. It sounds like he's got options, and it sounds like Newcastle know they've got competition here, but they do really like him. And look, it shows that once again they are fishing in the right waters. You cannot question the players that they are identifying right now. Like Munoz, they thought they had him, and then Liverpool came in. If Liverpool are signing him, he must be a good player. You've got Manzambi. It sounds like a lot of clubs are after him, and that's very different to what we saw last year when they signed Elanga. There was no competition. They signed Wissa. Really, there was no competition. Like, it was right in the dying embers of the window. And they signed Jacob Ramsey, and there was no competition. And that was essentially what they were doing last year. It feels like the players are identifying right now their top young European prospects that a lot of teams want to sign. So even if you don't get Manzambi, it shows that you're trying to sign the right players. That's how I feel. And hopefully, you guys have been buoyed by what you've seen over the last couple of days with Toure arriving, with Stewart today. There's two outfielders, the goalkeeper who's already in. We're sat here, it's only the 7th of July. There's ages of the window to go yet. They are working really hard behind the scenes. The recruitment department, particularly Ross Wilson, the sporting director, to try and identify these players and get the deals done. I know there's a lot of frustration over the last couple of weeks, particularly when the Munoz deal fell through. I said on this channel last week, had that deal gone through, everything would have felt a lot different. Like the fact you'd had to wait another week or two wouldn't have felt so bad. That deal falling through was just a really bad start to the window. But look, you've recovered well by bringing in a couple of players. We will see Stu arrive later today for his medical tomorrow, so that's going to feel good. I know he's a young player, he's only 18. Is he going to walk straight into the first starting lineup? I'm not too sure. There was question marks, I'm told, over in Ajax as to what his role was for this season. I think they felt he was maybe going to have more of a bit part role and be involved with the 21s as well. He wasn't happy with that. He feels he's good enough to be playing first team football. Have Newcastle promised him that? They've probably given him some kind of assurances that he will definitely be a first team player, but it'll then be up to him to do his bit to try and get into the team. Look, he's not going to be guaranteed a game. Is he a replacement for Sandro Tonali? I think he's a similar sort of player, but it's a big tag and a big pressure to put on an 18-year-old when you're comparing him to like a full Italian international, one of the best midfield players in Europe. I think we can all agree. But look, with Tonali and Gordon going, big name players who Newcastle have made big profits on. Like, they've done really well when you see bringing in Gordon for 40, selling for 70, Tonali coming in for 55, selling for 100. It is good business. There was some bad business done last summer, but there's some good business getting done already. And they've said they need to trade. They need to trade better. They've got off to a good start. The Munoz deal falling through was not good, but the arrival of Stewart and Toure, and if they can try and get Manzambi done, that would be a really good couple of weeks. And I think that would really be a statement signing if Newcastle can sign Manzambi. So let's see what happens on that one. They want the player, they like him. I think he's high on their wanted list. They just need to fend off competition, which, as we've seen over the last couple of years, is probably the most difficult thing of all. But you're not going to lose out in them all. You're going to win some, and there's, I think there's hope here. And for me, I've just got a feeling there's a decent chance he could become a Newcastle player next season, and he looks like a real top prospect, doesn't he? So that's it for me, guys. Our voice is a little bit Harry Kane-esque after the weekend. But finally, things beginning to move. I told you last week plates were spinning. There's more active negotiations happening. This is going to be a busy summer for Newcastle United. Strap yourself in. 2 in the door already, a third arriving today. There's going to be plenty more to come, plenty more for you guys to talk about. And look, talking about it openly, putting their name out isn't really working against the club. Like, I know a lot of people thought that worked against the Munoz deal. It didn't. Liverpool knew he was there anyway. But what we've seen with Toure and then Stour is that the club can also work quietly in the background, and they can get deals done, and it's not all being played through the media like a lot of people were suggesting. So that's it, guys. Plenty to come, plenty to talk about. Leave your comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.